The transport shuttle touched down on the docking bay with a soft hiss. Lieutenant Yuna Kang stepped out first, her boots clicking against the metal floor of the orbital station called Crossroads. She carried only a small pack. Behind her, 12 other humans followed, all military advisors from Earth. The station was massive. Yuna had seen pictures, but being here was different. The ceiling stretched high above, made of some clear material that showed the stars outside. Aliens moved through the corridors in every direction. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others floated. Some crawled on walls with multiple limbs. "Stay close," said Commander Tayo Park, walking beside her. He had arrived 2 weeks earlier to prepare for their arrival. "They're curious about us, but they mean well." Yuna nodded. She watched a tall insect-like creature pass by. Its body was covered in dark green armor, and its eyes were like black mirrors. Tayo noticed her looking. "That's a creche," he explained quietly. "They're warriors. Very proud of their combat skills." A floating being made of what looked like living crystal drifted past. It pulsed with soft blue light. "Velen," Tayo continued. "They communicate through light patterns and sound. Very peaceful, but strong." They reached a large meeting room. Inside, several aliens waited. The largest was another creche, his armor darker and covered in marks that looked like battle scars. He clicked his mandibles together in what Tayo had taught them was a greeting. "Welcome, humans," the creche said through a translation device on his chest. "I am Velthar, training master of this station. We are honored to host Earth's warriors." The words were polite, but Yuna heard something else in his tone. She had spent 15 years in special forces. She knew condescension when she heard it. A Velen spoke next, its voice like singing crystal. "We understand this is your first time in Galactic Coalition space. We have prepared modified training programs for your safety." "Modified?" asked Yuna. "Yes," Velthar said. "Humans are a protected species under Coalition law. Your bodies are fragile compared to most warrior races. We would not want anyone injured during standard exercises." Tayo's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Yuna kept her face calm. "What do your standard exercises involve?" she asked. Velthar led them to a viewing window. Below, in a massive arena, Yuna saw creatures fighting. A creche warrior faced off against something that looked like a bear crossed with a lizard, but 3 times larger. The warrior moved fast, dodging claws and striking with bladed arms. After 5 minutes, the creature backed down and was led away by handlers. "Live combat training," Velthar explained. "We use calibrated predators from various homeworlds. It teaches real survival skills." "And you think humans can't do this?" Yuna asked. The creche made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "With respect, Lieutenant, your species has no natural armor, no claws, no venom. You are intelligent, yes, creative, but physical combat against such beasts?" He gestured to the arena. "It would be unwise." Yuna watched the arena for a long moment. She saw other alien warriors training. They treated the dangerous beasts like sparring partners. Difficult, yes, but manageable. "I would like to participate," she said. The room went quiet. Even the Velens stopped pulsing. "Lieutenant?" Tayo said carefully. "Perhaps we should observe first." "No," Yuna interrupted gently. "That's why we're here, isn't it? To exchange knowledge, to learn from each other. How can we do that if we only watch?" Velthar's mandibles clicked again. "Very well, but we will use modified protocols, a juvenile specimen, 30-second survival test instead of the standard 5 minutes. Yuna saw the other aliens exchange looks. 30 seconds. That was what they used for children. "I accept," she said. "You should wear armor," suggested a Moroshi, an aquatic being standing in a mobility suit filled with water. "We can provide—" "No armor," Yuna said. "I'll use what I brought." Back in the observation room, The other human advisors gathered around Tayo. Jiwon Lee, their medic, looked worried. Yunwoo Choi, a pilot, grinned like this was entertaining. Nari Song, their engineer, was already calculating something on her datapad. "Is she always like this?" asked a young alien trainee, a creche barely old enough for military service. "You have no idea," Tayo muttered. Below, handlers were preparing the arena. Velthar explained the rules over the communication system. Survive for 60 seconds. He had changed it from 30, perhaps feeling generous. Don't get killed. The beast would be recalled if she was in real danger. "What kind of beast?" Yuna asked through her communicator. "A juvenile render," Velthar said. "A creche hunting animal. Quite safe at this age." Teo pulled up information on his pad. Juvenile renders weighed 400 pounds, could run at 40 miles per hour, and had killed fully grown creche warriors during training. Twice in the past year. "Safe," he whispered. "Right." Yuna stood in the center of the arena, waiting. She wore simple combat fatigues, no weapons, no armor. She rolled her shoulders and took a slow breath. The gate opened. The render emerged, all muscle and chitin armor with mandibles that could crush steel. It saw Yuna and went very still. Then it charged. The aliens leaned forward to watch. This would be over in seconds, they thought. The human would dodge, maybe survive the time limit through evasion. None of them expected what happened next. The training arena stretched out like a small ecosystem under the dome. Rocks jutted from the ground on one side, creating caves and hiding spots. A shallow pool of water sat in another corner, fed by an artificial stream. In the middle, synthetic trees rose up, their leaves designed to mimic various alien homeworlds. In the observation deck above, the other human advisors pressed against the window. Jiwon Lee gripped her medical scanner, ready to rush down if needed. Hyunwoo Choi stood with his arms crossed, looking more interested than worried. Nari Song had stopped calculating and just stared. "She's really doing this," Jiwon whispered. "Of course she is," Hyunwoo replied. "That's Yuna." Beside them, Minho Seo, their anthropologist, was explaining to a curious Velen what human special forces training involved. The Velen seemed skeptical that running long distances and doing push-ups could prepare anyone for combat. Below, the render had finished sizing up Yuna. It was young by creche standards, but it stood 4 feet tall at the shoulder and stretched nearly 8 feet long. Its exoskeleton was still developing, showing patches of softer dark green between plates of hardened chitin. 6 legs carried its massive frame, each ending in claws designed for gripping prey. Its mandibles opened and closed, revealing rows of serrated edges. Velthar spoke through the arena's speakers, his voice echoing off the dome. "Lieutenant Kang, the objective is simple. Evade and survive for 60 seconds. Do not attempt to fight the render. You have no weapons that can harm it, and it can easily overpower you." Yuna didn't respond. She stood perfectly still in the center of the arena, hands loose at her sides. Her eyes tracked the render as it began to circle her. "Is she even breathing?" asked a young creche trainee in the observation deck. "Barely," Tayo said, his knuckles white as he gripped the railing. He had seen Yuna in combat before. She always got very quiet, very still before action. It was like watching a stone that might suddenly become an avalanche. The render moved closer, taking its time. Despite being young, it had hunted before. The handlers fed it live prey to keep its instincts sharp. It knew how to stalk, how to wait for the right moment. Yuna's head turned slightly following its movement. She didn't try to keep the rocks at her back, didn't move toward the water or trees. She just waited. 30 seconds until the test begins," announced Velthar. The other aliens in the observation deck murmured among themselves. A Muroshi commented that the human showed good nerve control, standing so calmly. A Velen pulsed in agreement, noting that many first-time trainees ran immediately, which only triggered the predator's chase instinct. "Maybe she'll actually survive the full minute," someone said. "If she stays frozen like that, perhaps," Velthar replied, though that's hardly a useful combat skill. Tayo said nothing. He knew better. The timer hit 0. A soft chime sounded. The test had officially begun. The render stopped circling. Its body went low, legs coiling like springs. Every alien in the observation deck recognized the posture. Attack position. "Here it comes," Hyunwoo muttered. The render lunged. 400 pounds of muscle and armor exploded forward, crossing 20 meters in less than 2 seconds. Its mandibles opened wide, aimed at Yuna's center mass. The movement was so fast that several aliens blinked and missed it. But Yuna didn't miss it. Instead of jumping back or diving to the side, she did something that made no sense to anyone watching. She stepped forward, directly into the charge. "What is she—" Velthar started. Yuna's right hand shot out. Her fingers wrapped around the render's lower jaw just behind the mandibles. Her thumb pressed against the opposite side. The beast's momentum carried it forward, but Yuna was already moving with it, her body turning. The sound of the impact echoed through the arena. Yuna's boots scraped across the floor, pushed back by the force, but her grip held. She had caught a 400-pound charging predator mid-lunge. The arena fell silent. Even the render seemed shocked, its 6 legs scrambling for purchase. "Impossible," Velthar breathed. Every alien in the observation deck was standing now, pressed against the windows. The render twisted, trying to use its weight to break free. Yuna moved with it, pivoting on her back foot. She redirected the beast's thrashing, using its own strength against it. Her arm muscles stood out like cables, but her face remained calm. "Her grip strength," a Kresh warrior said. "Our powered exoskeletons couldn't hold like that." "Look at her stance," Teo said, finding his voice. "She's using her whole body, not just her arms. Weight distribution, leverage, core strength." The render tried to rear back, to pull its jaw free. Yuna went with the motion, keeping the angle where the creature couldn't use its full power. Her left hand came up, and that's when things got even stranger. She didn't strike, didn't try to hurt the beast. Instead, her fingers pressed against specific points behind the render's head, just where the skull met the neck. Then she began to tap. It was rhythmic, steady, like a heartbeat, but slower. Her fingers moved in a pattern, pressing and releasing. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, 3. Pause. The render's thrashing began to slow. Its aggressive clicking sounds changed pitch, becoming confused rather than angry. "What is she doing?" Jiwon asked. "Pressure points," Minho said, leaning forward. "But I've never seen them used on an alien species before. She's improvising." 30 seconds had passed. Yuna maintained the pattern, her tapping never varying. The render's movements became sluggish. Its mandibles stopped snapping. The black mirror of its eyes began to dilate. 45 seconds. The render's legs folded, not from injury but from relaxation. Its aggressive pheromones, which had been filling the arena with the scent of predator musk, changed, became calmer. 50 seconds. Yuna gently lowered the beast to the ground. It offered no resistance. She kept one hand on its head, maintaining the tapping pattern. The render's breathing slowed to a deep, regular rhythm. 60 seconds. The timer chimed. The render curled up on the arena floor, its eyes fully dilated, and went to sleep. Yuna stood, wiped her hands on her pants, and looked up at the observation deck. "Test complete," she said calmly. The observation deck erupted into chaos. Aliens were talking over each other in a dozen different languages. The translation devices struggled to keep up, creating a jumble of confused sounds. Velthar stood frozen at the window, his mandibles opening and closing but making no sound. Beside him, a Velen pulsed so rapidly with different colors that it looked like a malfunctioning light display. Down in the arena, handlers rushed in to check on the render. They approached carefully, expecting it to wake and attack. Instead, the beast remained peacefully asleep, its breathing deep and steady. Impossible, Velthar finally managed. She must have used some kind of weapon, a neural disruptor, chemical agent. I saw no weapon, said a Moroshi xenobiologist named Currents Through Deep. Its voice bubbled through its water-filled suit. I was recording. Shall I replay it? The recording showed exactly what everyone had seen. Yuna catching the jaw, the pivot, the tapping. Nothing else. No devices, no weapons, just her hands. Then she damaged it, Velthar insisted. The render is injured. It must be. Only one way to know, Currents Through Deep said. It moved toward the arena entrance. I will scan them both. Tayo and the other humans followed. By the time they reached the arena floor, the xenobiologist had already run its scanner over the sleeping render twice. Well, Velthar demanded, climbing down to join them. The render is completely unharmed, Currents Through Deep reported. No neural damage, no chemical traces, no physical injury. It is in genuine REM sleep, deep rest state. Velthar turned to Yuna, who was stretching her shoulders like she had just finished a light workout. What weapon did you use, human? No weapon, Yuna said simply. That is impossible. Nothing can simply make a render sleep without pressure points, Yuna interrupted. Combined with breathing control and pattern recognition, we call it understanding. The aliens stared at her. Velthar's mandibles clicked in frustration. Explain. Now. Yuna looked at Tayo, who nodded. She took a breath and began. On Earth, humans developed fighting systems over thousands of years, not just for fighting other humans, but for surviving predators. Big cats, bears, wild dogs. We studied how they moved, how they thought, where their bodies were vulnerable. She walked over to the sleeping render and pointed at its neck. Every creature with a spine has nerves here. Pressure on these nerves sends signals to the brain, calm signals, if done right. The tapping creates a rhythm that mimics restful states. But you've never seen a render before today, a Kresh warrior said. How did you know where to press? I didn't, exactly, Yuna admitted. But predators share common features, nerve clusters near the skull, breathing patterns that match aggressive states. I watched how it moved during the circle, where it held tension. Then I made an educated guess. Minho Seo stepped forward, pulling out his data pad. If I may add context, he said, humans evolved as both predators and prey. We hunted animals larger than ourselves, but we were also hunted. This made us very good at reading animal behavior. We had to be. He pulled up images of earth creatures, lions, wolves, bears. We couldn't outrun these, couldn't outfight them with strength alone. So we learned to understand them, to predict them. Currents Through Deep pulsed with interest. Its translator spoke. Fascinating. Most species evolve as primarily predator or primarily prey. This dual nature would require different survival strategies. Exactly, Minho said. We developed complex thinking about animal behavior. We also developed unusual physical traits. He nodded to Yuna. She held up her hands. Human grip strength is unusual for our size. We evolved climbing trees to escape predators, using tools, throwing spears and rocks. Our hands can grip and hold with a lot of force relative to our body weight. Tayo added, we also have excellent endurance. On Earth, humans hunted by chasing prey until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We can run for hours, days, if trained. We overheat slower than most Earth predators. Velthar was processing all this information. His mandibles clicked slowly, thoughtfully. So you are saying that humans are persistence predators? With unusual gripping ability and behavior prediction skills? Yes, Yuna said. We didn't conquer Earth by being the strongest. We did it by being the most adaptable. We learned, we studied, we changed our tactics. A long silence fell over the arena. The other aliens were rethinking everything they thought they knew about humans. Finally, Yuna spoke again. "May I ask a question?" "Go ahead," Velthar said, his tone much more respectful now. "Do you have adult renders, full-grown ones?" The arena went very quiet again. Currents through deep made a bubbling sound that might have been alarm. "That would be extremely inadvisable, Lieutenant. Adult renders weigh over 1,000 pounds. They have killed multiple trained Kresh warriors, even in controlled conditions." "I'm not saying I could defeat one," Yuna clarified, "but I could learn from trying. And maybe—" She looked around at all the assembled aliens. "Maybe I could teach your warriors what I know. That's why we're here, isn't it? To exchange knowledge?" Velthar's mandibles opened, then closed. He looked at the sleeping juvenile render, then back at Yuna. "You would teach us your understanding methods?" "If you'll teach us yours," Yuna replied. "Real exchange, not modified programs, not protected species treatment. Equals learning from equals." The Kresh warrior studied her for a long moment. Then his mandibles clicked in what the humans had learned was a smile. "I believe I have underestimated your species, Lieutenant Kang. Badly underestimated." "Most people do," Hyunwoo called from the observation deck. "First time?" Despite the tension, several aliens made sounds that approximated laughter. Velthar extended one of his bladed arms in a gesture of respect. "Very well, human. We will arrange for proper training exchange. No more modifications. No more protection protocols. You will train as our warriors train." Yuna touched his blade arm carefully, returning the gesture. "Thank you, Commander." As the group began to leave the arena, Narisong leaned close to Jiwon. "Did we just change the entire human-alien relations protocol?" "I think we did," Jiwon replied, watching Yuna walk beside Velthar, both of them discussing combat techniques. Behind them, the juvenile render continued sleeping peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams young predators dream. 3 months passed like water flowing through currents through Deep's suit. The Crossroads station had transformed in ways none of the original staff expected. The human advisors were no longer observers. They were instructors. Yuna stood in Training Hall 3, watching a Kresh warrior named Kalseth attempt a shoulder throw on a practice dummy. The warrior's natural instinct was to use his bladed arms to slash. Instead, Yuna had taught him to grip, turn, and use his opponent's weight against them. "Lower," Yuna called out. "Get your center of gravity under his. You're still trying to muscle through it." Kalseth adjusted, tried again. This time the dummy flipped smoothly over his shoulder and hit the mat with a solid thump. The warrior's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "Better," Yuna said. "Now do it 50 more times until your body remembers without thinking." In the next hall over, Tayo was teaching a mixed group of Velen and Moroshi about human endurance tactics. He had them running laps around the station's perimeter track. The aliens were confused at first. Where was the combat? The weapons training? "Combat is 10% action and 90% preparation," Tayo explained as they ran. "Your body is your first weapon. If it fails, everything else fails." By the end of the first week, half the class had dropped out. By the end of the first month, those who remained were running twice as long as they could before. They were also complaining less and thinking more strategically. Hyunwoo had taken over flight combat simulations, teaching pilots about human reaction times and decision-making under pressure. Nari worked with engineers on human tool adaptation. Even Jiwon was teaching medical staff about human anatomy, which had led to better understanding of other species' biological similarities. But it was Minho Seo who had perhaps the most important role. He worked with station leadership on cultural exchange protocols. making sure the humans and aliens understood not just how to fight together, but how to think together. The problem, Minho explained to a council of alien commanders, is that most of you evolved as either predators or prey. Humans are both. This makes us think differently about conflict. A Velen commander pulsed a question. The translator spoke. How so? A pure predator thinks, attack, dominate, win. A pure prey species thinks, hide, flee, survive. Humans think, adapt, outsmart, persist. We'll attack if we need to. We'll run if we must. But mostly, we'll find a third option nobody else considered. This conversation happened in week 4. By week 8, it had changed how the entire station approached combat training. The real test came when Yuna faced the adult render. Velthar had argued against it. So had Currents through Deep. Even Teo had pulled Yuna aside to ask if she was sure. I need to know my limits, she had said simply. And they need to see that humans can fail and keep going. That's part of what we are. The adult render was massive, over 1,000 pounds of pure predator. Its exoskeleton was fully hardened, scarred from years of training battles. Its mandibles could crush steel beams. When it entered the arena, even the veteran Kresh warriors in the observation deck felt a primal fear response. Yuna stood in the center, just like before. But this time she had asked for something different. She carried a simple staff, made of the same metal alloy the station used for structural support. 8 minutes, Velthar said over the speakers. Survive for 8 minutes and the test is passed. This is the standard for elite Kresh warriors. The adult render didn't circle. It didn't stalk. It charged immediately, testing this small creature that dared to face it. Yuna didn't try to catch its jaw this time. She couldn't. The force would have torn her arm off. Instead, she moved, slipped to the side at the last second, using the staff to redirect one of the render's legs. The beast stumbled, recovered, turned. What followed was the longest 8 minutes the station had ever witnessed. Yuna didn't fight to win. She fought to survive, to learn, to adapt. She used the terrain, the rocks, the water. She struck pressure points when she could, not to calm the beast, but to slow it, to make it think. The render landed hits. Yuna's left arm got caught by a mandible, leaving deep bruises through her armor. One of the claws raked across her back, tearing fabric but barely breaking skin because she had rolled with the motion. But she kept going, kept moving, kept adapting. At 6 minutes, she managed something remarkable. She got the staff wedged in the render's mandibles and used it as a lever, forcing the beast's head down. For 10 seconds, she held it there, tapping the pressure points she had found. The render didn't fall asleep, but it hesitated. Confused. This tiny creature was doing something that felt like communication. Then it shook free, sending Yuna tumbling across the arena floor. She rolled, came up running, and the dance continued. When the 8-minute timer chimed, Yuna was limping. Blood ran from a cut above her eye. Her breathing was heavy, but she was standing. The render was also breathing hard, something it rarely did. It looked at her with what might have been respect, then allowed its handlers to lead it away. The observation deck exploded with noise, not just alien sounds, but human cheering too. The other advisors were on their feet, yelling themselves hoarse. Velthar met Yuna at the arena exit. I have trained for 30 years, he said quietly. I have never seen anyone without Kresh biology last 8 minutes against an adult render. Most don't last 2. Yuna wiped blood from her eye and smiled. I didn't beat it. No, Velthar agreed. But you fought it to a standstill. You made it respect you. That is worth more than victory. Jiwan rushed over with her medical kit, already scanning for serious injuries. You're insane, she muttered while working. Completely insane. Probably, Yuna agreed. But now they know what we can do. and what we can't do. Both are important. That evening, Velthar filed a formal report to the Galactic Coalition. The title was simple: Human Combat Theory Requires Reevaluation. The report was 600 pages long. It detailed everything the station had learned about human capabilities: the persistence, the adaptability, the unusual combination of predator and prey thinking, the grip strength, the endurance, the psychological warfare. The conclusion was even simpler: recommend reclassification of humans from protected species to specialized strategic assets. When the other humans heard about this, they gathered in the common area to celebrate. Hyunwoo raised a glass of synthesized juice. To not being the weaklings anymore. We were never weak, Nari corrected. They just didn't understand what kind of strong we are. Tayo nodded. Different strong, weird strong, best kind of strong, Minho added. Yuna sat quietly in the corner, ice pack on her arm, watching her fellow humans laugh and joke. Across the room, she saw Velthar enter. Their eyes met. He clicked his mandibles in respect. She nodded back. 3 months ago, they had been curiosities, protected, fragile. Now they were teachers, partners, equals. And the galaxy was just beginning to understand what humanity really was. 6 months into the exchange program, the Crossroads Station had become something unprecedented in Galactic Coalition history. It was the first true cross-species combat academy where humans and aliens trained as equals. The morning training sessions had become routine now. Yuna walked through Training Hall 1, watching a Kresh warrior teaching taekwondo kicks to a class of younger aliens. His form wasn't perfect, but his dedication was absolute. 3 months ago, he would have laughed at the idea of learning from techniques developed by soft humans. Now he practiced every day. In the next hall, a Velen was demonstrating judo throws. The crystalline being had adapted the techniques for its floating movement style, creating something entirely new. It called the modified form Flowing Stone, and other Velen across the coalition were asking to learn it. Yuna smiled. This was what real exchange looked like. Not humans teaching aliens to be human, but everyone learning and adapting together. She found Tayo in the endurance training area, finishing a run with a mixed group. A Muroshi in a light mobility suit was actually keeping pace with him, something impossible when they first started. "Commander Park," the Muroshi bubbled through its translator, "I believe I understand now what you meant about the mind giving up before the body." Tayo grinned, barely winded. "Took you long enough. Same time tomorrow?" "Earlier," the Muroshi said. "I want to try for the full marathon distance." As they walked to the cool-down area, Tayo joined Yuna. "Hard to believe 1/2 a year ago they thought we were too fragile to train with them. Hard to believe we proved them wrong by putting someone in a chokehold with a predator," Yuna replied. They both laughed. It had become a station legend. Some of the younger trainees who hadn't been there didn't believe it really happened until they saw the recordings. The afternoon brought something special. Sora Im, the human psychologist, had developed a new program. She called it Interspecies Stress Management. Today was the first full demonstration. The large meditation hall was filled with aliens and humans sitting together. Sora's calm voice guided them through breathing exercises adapted for different physiologies. "Breath is life," she said. "Every species here breathes, even if the mechanism is different. Find your rhythm. Feel it. Control it." A Kresh warrior who had been struggling with post-combat stress sat beside Hyunwoo. They breathed together, the warrior's mandibles slowly relaxing. "I never thought about breath as a tool," the warrior said afterward. "We use it for pheromone communication, but not for peace. Humans figured out thousands of years ago that controlling your breath controls your mind," Sora explained. "It's one of our oldest techniques, right up there with hitting things with rocks." The warrior made the clicking sound of Kresh laughter. I like you humans. You make wisdom sound simple. That's because it usually is, Sora replied. People just make it complicated. Evening came, and Yuna found herself in the station's observation lounge. The massive windows showed Earth hanging in the distance, blue and green and beautiful. Velthar approached, moving more quietly than usual for a being his size. "May I join you, Lieutenant?" he asked. "Of course, Commander, and you can call me Yuna. We've been training together for 6 months. Velthar settled beside her, his compound eyes reflecting Earth's light. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the planets slowly rotate. "I have a question," Velthar said finally. "It has been troubling me." "Go ahead. How did your species survive being so soft?" He clicked apologetically. "I do not mean offense, but you have no natural armor, no claws, no venom, no thick hide. By all logic, Earth's predators should have eliminated early humans." Yuna considered the question. It was a good one. She pointed at Earth. "See those white parts? Ice. Earth has frozen over multiple times. Then it warmed again. Then froze again. While that was happening, we had predators that could run faster than us, climb better, bite harder, hunt in packs more efficiently. Then how? We're not soft, Commander. We're flexible." Yuna stood, moved to the center of the lounge. "May I demonstrate something?" Velthar nodded, curious. Yuna picked up a training staff from the equipment rack. She held it vertically and pushed down on the top. The metal bent slightly, then sprang back when she released it. Flexible. Then she picked up a piece of decorative stone from a display. She put it under the staff and pushed down again. The stone cracked. The staff remained intact. "On Earth, we have a saying," Yuna continued. "The reed bends in the wind, but the oak breaks. We learn to be reeds." "I do not understand," Velthar admitted. Yuna set down the staff and faced him. "Your species evolved with natural weapons and armor. You became excellent at direct combat, overwhelming force. When you face a problem, you attack it head-on. Yes, this is the Kresh way. Humans couldn't do that. We couldn't outmuscle the bears, couldn't outrun the big cats, couldn't outbite the wolves. So we learned to bend, to adapt, to find different solutions." She began pacing, warming to the topic. "We learned to throw rocks, so we didn't have to get close. We learned to persistence hunt, running prey to exhaustion over days. We learned to use fire to scare off predators. We learned to work together in groups, communicating complex ideas. Every time Earth tried to kill us," she continued, "we adapted instead of fighting directly. Ice Age, we learned to make clothes and shelter. Drought, we learned to find and store water. Predators, we learned to predict them, understand them, avoid them, or trap them." Velthar was quiet, processing. "So you are saying humans are survivors, not warriors?" "We're both," Yuna corrected. "We survive until we have to fight. Then we fight with everything we've learned from surviving. That's why our combat styles focus on leverage, timing, and psychology. We learn to turn our weaknesses into advantages." She walked back to the window, looking at Earth. "That planet down there tried to kill us 1,000 different ways. We're still here because we bent instead of breaking. We changed instead of staying the same." Velthar joined her at the window. For a long time, neither spoke. Then he asked, "Is that why you could calm the render? Because you saw it not as an enemy, but as another creature trying to survive?" "Exactly," Yuna said, surprised. "You understand?" "I am beginning to," Velthar replied. "My species sees everything as either threat or ally. But humans see nuance, complexity, possibility." Movement caught their attention. Below, in one of the training halls, visible through the floor windows, they saw something remarkable. A Kresh warrior was sparring with a Muroshi in its water-filled armor. But the Kresh wasn't using his bladed arms to attack. He was using a shoulder throw, a human technique, and it worked. The Moroshi flipped over and landed in a controlled fall, exactly as Yuna had taught them. Both warriors got up, made gestures of respect, and tried again. 3 months ago, that would have been impossible, Velthar said quietly. Kresh and Moroshi barely tolerated each other. Now they train together using techniques from a third species. That's what flexibility does, Yuna said. It creates possibilities. Tayo and Hyunwoo entered the lounge, followed by Nari and Minho. They were laughing about something, a Velen floating along with them, pulsing with colors that suggested amusement. "There you are," Hyunwoo called to Yuna. "We're heading to the dining hall. Currents Through Deep says they're serving something that's supposedly like Earth seafood." "Supposedly," Nari emphasized. "I give it 30% odds of being edible." "I'll take those odds," Minho said. Yuna looked at Velthar. "Join us?" The Kresh commander's mandibles clicked. "I would be honored." As they walked through the station corridors, Yuna thought about how much had changed. The humans had come here expecting to be observers. Protected species, kept safe from the dangerous galaxy. Instead, they had become teachers, not because they were stronger, but because they understood something the other species were just learning. That strength wasn't just physical. That power came in many forms. That survival was an art as much as science. They passed a notice board showing recent coalition announcements. One caught Yuna's eye. It was a request from another station, asking if they could send representatives to learn the human training protocols. Below that, another from a Kresh military academy, then one from a Velen educational facility. The word was spreading. "Tayo," Yuna said quietly, "I think we might have started something bigger than we realized." He followed her gaze to the board. "You think?" "The galaxy spent thousands of years developing combat based on natural weapons and direct force," she said. "We showed them there's another way." "The human way," Hyunwoo added, having overheard. "We're going to be so popular." "Or so annoying," Nari muttered. "Depends on perspective." They reached the dining hall where the smell of something vaguely fish-like filled the air. Aliens and humans sat together at tables, sharing meals and stories. A Kresh was attempting to use chopsticks, much to the amusement of a human engineer trying to explain the technique. Velthar paused at the entrance, taking in the scene. "You know what I think, Yuna?" "What's that?" "I think the galaxy wasn't ready for humans. But I am glad you came anyway." Yuna smiled. "We're good at showing up where we're not expected. It's kind of our thing." Outside the station, Earth continued its slow rotation, a small blue planet that had produced the most adaptable, persistent, and stubbornly creative species the galaxy had yet encountered. A species that survived not by being the strongest, but by being the most flexible. The reeds that bent, but never broke. And now they were teaching the galaxy to bend too.